Good afternoon to all of you, and thanks for that. And we have a very interesting debate that accreditation is a boon or a bane. And I'm already scared to see next to me Dr. Mulpur is sitting and scaring everyone with his thoughts and impressions and gestures. So we are not ready for that anyway. So what we are going to do in this debate, as you know already, I have two eminent personalities from the Indian healthcare working for accreditation. They are going to talk as healthcare accreditation is a boon, and I have in my left side Dr. Harish Pillai and Dr. Anil Mulpur going to talk about it is Bane. But I am sure in this room I have people working with CAHO accredited organization members. So most of you, we are going to have already a pre-decided, preconceived idea whether it is Boon or Bane. So I want to have a vote quickly. Can you please raise your hand and tell me how many of you feel it is Boon? Can you raise your hand? How many of you feel? Don't raise your both the hands, okay? And how many of you feel it is a Bane? So already you are out. But let me have this voting again at the end of the debate, and we'll see whether really he has expressed his view and whether he can convince people on the other side. So with this, without spending much time, and already in the pre-lunch session we heard about certification, ISO, accreditation, whether it is good, bad. And when I work for hospital, I come across different versions and statements stating accreditation is making it costly affair. Is it good for the patient or good for the hospital? Is it only a marketing tool for the hospital to attract more patients? Is it a tool to get more reimbursement from the ECHS, CGHS kind of insurance schemes? So there are different thoughts are there. So I'm not going to give my individual comments on this and going to make you biased as because I'm sitting in the chairman's position. As Harish is going to leave, and most of the people in this room have told it is a boon. I'll ask Harish to start with his maybe 6-7 minutes thoughts, ideas, and he needs to set the context that why he thinks differently. So over to Harish.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting. The topic itself. I mean, I don't know why we are even debating on such a thing. My job is so much easier because, like Dr. Puri said in the morning session, the country wants to know. So the country wants to know has already spoken, and he's left us a lot of nuggets of thought. I want to take off from where Goswami, made his very passionate pitch. And then, of course, we had this very interesting discussion from Sonali from a personal point of view. So what is the purpose of accreditation as the way we see it? In my opinion, if accreditation and the journey so far was perfect, and it had really done all the good, none of us would have to sit here and talk and defend ourselves. You know what Dr. Puri was trying to say to Arnob was that you are a national spokesperson, so please convey to the rest of the world that we are the good guys, we are not the bad guys. That itself is a mirror. The problem, and the second thought, what he said is that we need to shout ourselves to be heard. So collectively we are rather quiet, we are kind of mouses in our own private yard, but maybe we are not being the lions we ought to be for the right things. My point of view is that if Dr. Agarwal and team had organized this specific conference in the interiors of Bihar or Uttar Pradesh, where there is no air conditioning, and that's why I deliberately removed my suit, and we are perceived as the Aam Aadmi, and you always wondered that why are the politicians in the country not dressed in a traditional urban outfit, and why are we all wearing suits and trousers for the first, why are we doing that? Why should there, a politician come in that crisp khadi, or we almost look at somebody in a uniform, the khadi wear, and say, yeah, he has to be a politician. So there are certain brand perceptions of that. Coming to the point, the way we are doing quality in the country today for healthcare it's not sustainable because you have already created haves and have-nots. You've created a bunch of elitist people in terms of provider network because you have that kind of ability. You have the financial muscle power to do whatever it takes to fulfill what a certain accreditation body is trying to do. But my point is that you all have failed collectively as an organization. And I'm trying to say something so that the stakeholders present in this room, especially from NABH, from the Quality Council of India and others, need to smell the coffee right. What you're doing today is not sustainable for the future because we are all focusing on the quantity and the so-called facade of accreditation. You ask yourself in your hospitals that if you create a voltage graph, an electrical graph, that when is the intensity, like, the movies talks about, where's the Josh? The Josh is always maybe a couple of months before your inspectors are due to come to your hospital. But the rest of the time, you're all somnolent. You're almost on a post-lunch scenario every day of the year. And that's the fact of the matter. The so-called quality system, safety, whatever you talk about, is just naam ke vaste. Life goes on the way it ought to be because you're going back to your default culture and the nature which we're all designed to be. Where is the fault in it? We have to go back to maybe to primary school, to go back to undergraduate education, whether nurses, whether it's paramedics or even doctors. Do you need a policeman to make you behave the way you ought to behave? If you go to a traffic signal, do you need to know that, okay, it's red, do you cross the line? So there is an issue in terms of investing so much of resources, time and efforts to create an edifice which is just not sustainable. That's my first contention. The second contention is that the way the accreditation inspections are being structured currently, I have an issue with that. In terms of NABH, you're talking about a horizontal inspection, which is basically a time capsule. You're trying to take a snapshot of a process which you will never know whether it's true or false. You have an idea. But the fact remains that none of us are aware about outcomes, which is the most important aspect. Why are we all under pressure points in the private sector? Why are we all into pressure points to perform? Why is this roaring debate on Ayushman Bharat? The fact of the matter is nobody talks about, and that's what I liked about Dr. Puri's point of view, that nobody talks about the results of a cataract surgery. Was there an SSI rate or was there a blindness about it? True quality in the sense can come up where in our country together we can create some kind of a body which talks about clinical outcomes of hospitals and doctors, where me as a consumer, I can go to a public facility or a private facility and decide that, okay, on a quality basis, in terms of outcomes alone, I can do. Not because of accreditation and things like that. And my definition of quality is a default culture and behavior which is expected of everyone in the system. You don't need to be a policeman to enforce. It's like morality. It's like your faith. I mean, do we see God? How do we inspire our children, the next generation, to be morally upright citizens of the country? How do we do that? Are we policemen for that matter? What happens to a teenager once he leaves the safety of a home? Do they come back to a default behavior? That's my point of view. Mom and dads are not there to govern or supervise an adolescent or an adult for the rest of their lives. They are all going back to the default behavior which makes them morally upright individuals and citizens of the country. So my basic point of view is that we can't afford to be elitist, whether you're in public or private. You need to invest more into the default culture and behavior of doing things right the very first time. You don't need to create expensive processes, structures that we don't have to do. We also talk about in public debates, there are two Indias. We talk about the huge class divide between the urbanized India, we call it India, capital INDIA, and then we have Bharat, which is quite massive. The worry which I have is what Arnab talked about, that we are at the precipice of something drastic which is going to happen. You know, when you talk, we are in the state of Maharashtra. Only the city of Mumbai has 24/7 electricity supply. If you go a few kilometers away from Mumbai, there is continuous power shortages. This is the very state where you have farmer suicides. All the politicians, left, right, center, all talk about doing something for the poor farmer. But will that ever be resolved?
You have one.
I have 1 minute left. That's perfect. So healthcare has to be in a sense that this entire philosophy of only if you have a fat wallet that you can have that kind of access need to be, the desperation is quite palpable. I come from a state which has rightly invested in this concept of health and education from 1950s onwards. So we do have, it's a large 35 million state of, I would say, large urbanized middle class bunch of people in the state of Kerala. But healthcare has been taken up as a priority subject for the government of the state from 1950s onwards. Nobody talks about quality accreditation as a big topic in the state of Kerala because even today, the Aam Aadmi prefers to go to the government medical college for perception of being a good quality center for curative care. You can also walk into not just the medical colleges, but you can also go to the primary healthcare system because this is the default culture of the state, because it's an enlightened state, a state of Buddhijeevis, because of literacy levels. Why can't the rest of India do the same thing? Why are we, even in the 2019 general elections, talking that Garibi Hatao? Why is that? This is something fundamental and it's almost like a comedy. So my entire point of view is that we can't afford to be elitist. The current process and the whole system of, we helping each other out. The entire accreditation process today can be summed up in that one sentence and if you continue in this way, the whole edifice will collapse. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harish. Just to tell the other panelists that you will get time to defend whatever points they have given in the next round for 3 minutes. So initially, you can speak your views for next 6-7 minutes. So over to Dr. Badri.
Dear friends, I thank the organizers to giving me opportunity to talk. Accreditation system is a boon because otherwise I would have talked against my conscience like Dr. Harish and Dr. Mulpur. And what I've been given an opportunity to talk the truth, so it is easy. So I was just, when Dr. Lallu told me to talk about this one, about the accreditation system, I was thinking, how was the system before accreditation? Today morning, almost 5 sessions are talking about the benefits of the accreditation. So I won't quote any statistics or any outcomes or any studies, which is very well done by Air Marshal Pawan Kapoor. Now, I had a habit of writing a diary during my post-graduation. That was in 2000 to 2004. I just was going through the diary, and these were some of the experiences almost 15, 16 years ago. That was on August 13th of 2003. I'm an ENT surgeon basically, and in a day in a government medical college, Premier Institute of Karnataka, one of the best medical colleges, around 25 surgeries. Out of this, another 10 will be tonsillectomies. All the children will be grouped together and then sat outside the theater. And then one by one, they will go into the theater and get the surgery done. During the post-operative rounds, we realized that the patient told, "Doctor, actually I didn't have problem with the throat. It was a tongue tie." Okay. So doctor told very cleverly, actually we saw infection here, so we thought we will clear the infection here first, then tomorrow we'll do the tongue tie. Yeah, we knew that problem. So there was no system of identification of patients, no system of safe surgery. And how was the consent? Consent was one-liner, forget about explaining. It was about for thumbprint or signature, one-liner about, I have been explained about the surgery. That's it. And the surgery in a government college, 3 tables next to each other. And then what was happening in the next table on August 13th? One patient was undergoing a surgery called septoplasty for the nose under local anesthesia. Patient was awake in the sense was semi-conscious. Towards the end of the surgery, patient told, "Dr. Saab, just have a look, have you not left any cotton inside my nose?" So the doctor got so much infuriated, he started hitting the patient. We had to remove our gloves and hold our consultant so that he doesn't kill the patient because of his abuse. There was no concept of patient right. Patient didn't know about the patient, their own rights. Then, the August 14th, what happened? Psychiatry patients were also admitted under ENT ward, and then one of the doctors wrote tablet haloperidol 0.5 mg. That point fell on the line, so haloperidol 5 mg, that is 10 tablets were given by the nurse. The next day, the mania was cured. The patient was all right. He didn't die, but he was all right because 10 times the dose has been given. Our professor told, isn't it a common sense that you have to write 0.5? Yes. That day evening, another resident has written on August 14th that insulin 5.0 units, again 50 units of insulin was given, and then the patient went to ICU. August 15th, Independence Day. So we went to the terrace of the building for the flag hoisting. We were very surprised to see the funny incident of all the monkeys taking bath in the water tank, which we used to drink for years together. Then after that, I have not written diary for 1 month. Then I went to UK for a job. Because, I didn't want to write anything further. When I went to UK, they asked me, otherwise you are fine, but tell me the definition of clinical audit, we will give you job. I didn't know what is clinical audit. I never knew what is clinical audit. Then we realized at that time, in 1914, in Massachusetts General Hospital, Dr. Codman, he told that we have to audit ourselves, but where were we? Where were we auditing ourselves? So always we had the culture of hiding the things. Into CAHOCON 2016, which happened in Bangalore, I met the professor and HOD of the department. He asked me to come to hospital to see what is the status. After 15 years, I went to the same hospital. Except for the granite flooring and the painting which has been done, nothing had changed after 16 years. Then they told that at least we had to go for entry level. They had called me 2 months ago to just do a mock assessment. And now with confidence I can say, none of the problems, whatever they are here, it is no more a problem. I can confidently say that patients will not suffer like how these patients suffered 15 years ago. This is only because of accreditation system, nothing else. If they had decided, and it is entry level, it is not a full NABH, even at entry level, there is a big benefit of the system. So what was the scenario in India? It was treatments were getting more and more complex treatments were there, and bigger team. We counted how many people come in contact with a patient for successful treatment from beginning till the end, from emergency to the discharge. If the patient stays for 7 days, around 120 people come in contact. Each and every person has to deliver the right thing, otherwise patient will end up in a medical error. There was more and more of consumerism which was happening. So one of the person told, when
Dr.
the patient...
Badri, 1 minute.
Yes. One of the patients, when they come to emergency, they are patients. When they leave the hospital, they are consumers or customers. So when they are becoming more and more vertical, they change from more and more patient to more and more customer. We know how to deal with the patients, but we never knew how to deal with the customers. So accreditation system, patient feedback system, that is what has helped. So we were in terrible confusion. The healthcare system, and with more and more focus towards commercialization and the legal scenarios what we are having, the healthcare system was in a status of utter confusion. So if you remember this verse, yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham, it is when the healthcare dharma was going down, when the healthcare was in difficulty, actually this NABH accreditation system, and not only the NABH, the accreditation system, it has taken its incarnation, and through, God cannot be there everywhere. Through people like Dr. Mulpur, God is helping the organizations to bring in quality. So now, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Badri. In the sideline, I would like to ask you later whether still you write your diary now and what you get in that. So, so Dr. Mulpur has already taken the lead, and he is not going to have only audio presentation, he is going to have video presentation also. So over to Dr. Mulpur, but they are on time, otherwise I'll get 2 shorts for you, not 1.
Can I have my presentation on here, please? Sai Ram. and good afternoon to all of you. I, Anilendra Bahubali, in the next 8 minutes, will convince everyone in the audience that it is absolutely useless exercise, costly exercise, not an exercise worth undertaking at all. Can I have my slides here, please? Now, what is a bane? I'm going to argue that accreditation is a big bane. What is a bane? Bane is a great distress or annoyance. It is synonymous with ruin, destruction, death, and scourge. Now, I will not go that far, but I will leave saying that accreditation is a great distress. It's a great distress. Accreditation was meant to be voluntary. Is it voluntary? No. Why? Because CGHS and IRDA are the culprits. They have commercially incentivized the whole accreditation process. You today de-link CGHS and IRDA from accreditation, NABH, JCI will all be dead and extinct like dinosaurs. There will be no drive for accreditation. Suddenly everybody started employing hospital managers. We didn't have those many. Suddenly there is a demand for quality implementation. We don't know whether it is K or Q to begin with. Suddenly you have now data cooks and quality consultants and consultancies. What a shame. But one thing accreditation bodies have done good, they have increased the opportunities for cooks. Earlier cooks were only in kitchen, restaurants, hotels, but now you have got quality department. You need MTR masala and MS Office and one Punjabi girl who stands and sits in -2 level with a keyboard from which few of the letters are falling off. And she is supposed to cook to suit the palates of assessors. What a shame. Whenever you want to take up an exercise in management, you want to see whether there is a cost-benefit analysis and there is a benefit, you have cost-effectiveness ratio and see whether it's useful. It is utterly useless. See the amount of money, are the JCI guys here or gone? Now the amount of money they spend for JC accreditation is mind-boggling. Consultancy, first round assessment, second round assessment, anyway, NABH guys here, they do it for 1/10 the price. So ladies and gentlemen, there is neither benefit nor effectiveness of this useless exercise called accreditation. Now you call yourselves Quality Council of India. I have heard of Medical Council of India, Nursing Council of India, Dental Council of India. They were born out of a parliamentary statute. Quality Council of India is born out of Societies Act 1872, before my great-grandfather was born. And this NABH is only 1/7 of this QCI. It is utterly misleading. The moment you say Quality Council of India, assessors and SSCs think it is mandatory and to have it. Absolute nonsense. Now, the whole accreditation has a fundamental flaw. It is against clause 4E of ISO 17021 because you want accreditation bodies to be what? Independent. The moment government enters what? You lose independence and you also have corruption and so on. So accreditation body, unfortunately, is not independent. Now, I have written a little poem which I want to share with you, but there is a disclaimer. The characters in the subsequent presentation are not fictitious. They are not imaginary. Their resemblance to people in real life is intended. Opinions expressed herein are not the sole opinions of presenter. I wield a sword. Some of them who are sitting in the audience don't, but they are with me. I already got an FRCS CTH and MCH. I was very happy without NABH. CGHS said with NABH 20% more, and all the trouble started galore. Vision of my board till the time was utterly myopic. I wanted to have a mission which was to make money and sound philanthropic. Doctors were scribbling happily all over the case sheet. Staff hand rub exercise was a big feat. I was forced to learn about accreditation. My board took ever for giving me approbation. Can you believe accreditation covered allopathy and homeopathy? And what is remaining, Sitapati and Lakshmipati? I am always confused about GST. To add to this, you have SHCO, HCO, ECO, MIS, and OST. Some NABS standards are for dental. NABH IRCS standards are for mental. Accreditation is giving a big push. Blood bank, PHC, CHC, Ayush, trials, Panchakarma, allopathy clinic. Oh God, range of NABH fills me with panic. Pre-entry level, entry level, empanelment. There is still scope for development. NABH has a new project called HOPE. Oh God, it's so difficult to cope. I had to repeatedly call for an assessment date without knowing what was in my fate. Sweet voice from secretariat repeated, Hanji, Hanji. She reminded me of my American-born Bhanji. Principal assessor was an army colonel, was repeatedly asking everyone about Event Sentinel. He doesn't look like Abhinandan Vardhaman, but he reminds certainly of Duryodhan the Durabhiman. He never lost an opportunity to tell army story. He kept on singing about his glory. He made my tiny Mary lift extinguisher. In fact, extinguisher was heavier than Mary. He made tiny Mary lift extinguisher. He was a big fan of Kingfisher. And then came a female assessor. She kept calling everyone lovingly, sir, sir. Her name is spelt with 2 L's for numerology. She had bizarre assessment methodology. Her name was Miss Sharmila. True to her name, she was Sharm-illa. She went to nooks and corners and kept driving everyone bonkers. With smiles, Sharmila's face was radiant when she was measuring the ramp gradient. She moved like a cockroach. Her assessment mission was poach and poach. My young nursing superintendent looked like Mallika Sharawat, with whom I was planning an occasional shararat. Sharmila surely poached my lovely nursing superintendent, and all I am left with Lalita Pawar, the ugly DNS. These were my good old times, and that was my previous nursing director. And what I am left with? Every day, Alsatian dogs sound better than my nursing director. Now, CGHS, they said, right, you got accreditation, we'll give you 20%. But what is the reality, ladies and gentlemen? Out of the 10%, I have to give RMP, 20% to GP. I am still waiting for the government scheme money in REC. On recoverables lost, the interest is 12%. What the heck? Investors and vendors are breathing down my neck. ये hospital जिंदगी बहुत बुरा खेल, मैं जिंदगी में हो गया fail. With negative EBITDA, my face is eternally pale, and my hospital is up for sale. And being CAHOCON, I have seen that NACO, that stall is empty. And if Dr. Vijay Agarwal lends me, I'm going to sit here, cancel my evening flight, and hopefully some of you can buy my hospital. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 things which I want to tell you. Clean shaven
your
face,
time is up.
clean shaven face and sword don't go together. This is alopecia acquired because of accreditation. I call it AAA syndrome. And parliamentary debate, I don't have to actually get this, but I know what happens in Indian parliament. So even if it comes to physical, Parag, I am ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mulpur. over to Dr. Parag. Now you have to prove how it is.
At the very outset, can I have this mic, please? At the very outset, it's very heartening to know that our worthy opponents have already written the word fail in their poem. So they're very clear as to the fact that they're going to fail. True or false, ladies and gentlemen? I can't hear you. We talk about DNA. We talk about accreditation getting into the culture of healthcare organizations. We talk about patient safety getting into the DNA of every healthcare worker. Ladies and gentlemen, please understand that patient safety, evidence-based medicine is something that will continue to elude Indians if we continue with the so-called Indian attitude towards accreditation, the woe punchline that we heard about in the morning. If you're going to pay for accreditation and expect return on investment, make the full payment. Make payment in terms of getting cadres which are qualified throughout the year and not just 3 days prior to accreditation. Make the effort of putting in quality improvement throughout the year and not just in the third year when you know assessors are going to come. If you're going to record medication errors, make sure you do it throughout the year. Make sure you table your comments. Make sure P&T committee discusses it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very easy for people to say that accreditation is not going the right way. In some part, I would agree that yes, we are not going about the right way in accreditation. Who is to blame? The guru of quality, W. Edwards Deming, clearly said, all mistakes belong to the system and the system belongs to management. Therefore, if you are making a mistake in not interpreting standards correctly, in not ensuring that things happen appropriately within your healthcare organization, who is to blame but yourself? You're looking at data, you're not willing to analyze it. I go back to 2010, National Demonstration Project Healthcare. 16 crores of rupees saved across 9 hospitals in India through quality improvement projects. I take Dr. Gyani's name here because he was the one who drove the National Demonstration Project Healthcare. When we study NABH or when we study international accreditation, we learn about capacity building. Ladies and gentlemen, while I love the frivolous, lovely jokes that Dr. Mulpul brought to the stage, isn't it time that we seriously introspect and understand that accreditation today is a boon? There is no doubt about it that we all have improved leaps and bounds over the last decade and a half. And I'd probably like to raise a toast to Dr. Gyani this evening for having created that atmosphere where we all could work together and come together to a common platform today, where 5 years in a row today, hospitals across India are getting together to discuss what are their risk rates and trends across the country. How can we improve our infection rates? Today, the Indian population is benefiting from all of your minds working towards quality improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, it is farcical to even probably think of having this debate, but the moot point of having this debate is to bring about the very firm realization in our minds that accreditation is here to stay. One very important point that I'd like to probably add now here is that even today, accreditation remains voluntary. What is not voluntary is not getting accreditation and still opting out for government schemes. Accreditation per se is still voluntary. And I think it's very important for us to look back to 2004 when we didn't have accreditation. We were not monitoring, we were not measuring, and therefore we were not thinking of improving. Ladies and gentlemen, a simple example of looking at our own errors like medication errors, infection rates. We didn't follow CDC guidelines in monitoring these rates. Today they're all there. Each Indian who is associated with Indian healthcare, including Patna and Bihar, is talking about monitoring risks, rates, and trends. What better platform to affirm our commitment to accreditation than the 5th edition of CAHOCON? It's amazing that I have 2 people, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara. My teacher, Dr. Mulpur, is sitting on the other side today. Sir, please shift your chair this side. You don't look good sitting there. And an advisor to an international accreditation body, Dr. Pillai. It's force of this conference that they're sitting that side. They would love to join us on this side along with all of us. And we all know that accreditation is a boon. I repeat, and I'd like to take this moment and repeat. Are we doing things the right way? No. Accreditation is a structure. Accreditation is a beginning. Accreditation is a means. It's up to you to grab these means and go ahead and monitor quality and improve the productivity and the profitability of your organization. On an average today, in my organization, I'm completing 40 quality improvement projects, not because NABH wants me to, but I want to improve my EBITDA. I want to improve my profitability, because that's what NABH or JCI is supposed to do for me. If today I make fewer errors, I go home sleeping safer. My conscience is cleaner. I know I don't have debts on my conscience, which because of medication errors, because of falls, because of infections, would invariably happen in my hospital. I again say only one thing: there is a system today in place. How we use and milk that system is up to each CEO, is up to each qualitist. I end here, Joy, so that you don't have to ring the bell. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parag, for being on time. So I'm going to have a next round for 2 minutes for each of the panelists here. I'm going to ask them if they have any point to defend the other side of the panelists, if they have any viewpoints. And before that, maybe 20 seconds, if you want to change your side, you can do that, and then you can go for. So, okay, so Dr. Harish, you can start.
It's always easy if you have the blessings of the right set of genes. So Parag and Badri, you guys are fortunate to be, having the right set of genes. A few points which did not really address what we were trying to convey. I said right in my opening remarks that the topic itself is wrong. We're debating on the wrong set of topics. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. I mean, there's a larger purpose rather than the laughs and the fun what we are having here. The purpose, what I'm trying to highlight, is for us to be sustainable long term, that we need to be sitting and having meaningful discussion, hopefully not on the same topic 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from today. If for that to happen, this class divide has to be taken off. If you tell me that class divide cannot disappear, and that's what Goswami really mentioned, it's an idea, it's a thought in our own minds. Can we all sit together and look at what can we do better? I mean, what we are doing right now is again a facade. That's what I'm trying to say again and again. Dr. Badri mentioned about his wonderful diary, which I don't know whether he stopped writing right now, but that's the pain and agonies of a public sector institution which has got challenge of volumes. But then there is a basic minimum which is already being fulfilled in terms of curing the urgent. My point out here is that can cost as a factor of barrier, can that be thrown out of the window? Should cost be there? The human capital, and I was really happy to listen to Parag when he talked about there is a challenge in terms of capacity building for human resources. Can we really invest into that to have a cadre of world-class administrators? I always look at colleagues in the public sector and wonder, why is it that it's always a senior doctor who might be a really good doctor in his specialty is put into the seat of an administrator? Management is a science, whereas the clinician who might be good in his field may not understand the grammar of management. Is that an issue? I always wonder that why is the principal secretary health in various states of our country have no domain expertise on healthcare? And it's a sad story that when you have a meeting called by the principal secretary health, there is a huge generation gap. Sometimes the IAS officer might be in his late 30s or early 40s. You have senior principals of medical colleges all prostrate in front of the principal. There is no voice being spoken about. Because if you really say what has to be said, you might be transferred to some nook and corner, and that's a fear factor of management. When can we throw this out of the ecosystem? I think quality, the way we talk about in our country and as we understand, can only be effective if we can be honest to ourselves and honest as a system, and throw out this entire facade, which will just create elitism in the most fundamental requirement of all, which is healthcare. Thank you.
Dear friends, we are talking about accreditation. It is not the problems of the assessment process. So as Dr. Harish told, There are problems with assessment process. There are some problems with assessment process which can be improved. But here we are talking about the accreditation system. The other issue is bringing in equality. It is altogether a different issue and different solution. So whether the accreditation system, through accreditation system, we are not trying to bring equality into the country, that's a total different problem and a different solution. Then another thing Dr. Harish told is, why can't we self-regulatory? Why do we need policing? Can we remove all the traffic lights and ask the people to follow the rules? No policeman is needed. So similarly, no exams are there. Exams, the purpose of studying anything is to gain knowledge. So let us remove all the exams. Is it possible? It is not practically possible. So all of us realize that just before the exams, we study more. So during the assessment also, there is more preparation before the exam, but still it has an effect which is far-fetching than that. I understand Dr. Mulpur, he is very hurt and then very unhappy about his nursing director, and he is wrongly attributing this missing of the nursing director to the accreditation system. So that is the problem. So I understand. I was thinking that Dr. Mulpur will tell something like this, and I had a dream. I was scared. I don't know what he was going to do. Today morning I had a dream. In my dream, what happened? There is a beautiful, in the Himalayan mountains, there is a lake, and I tasted that water. Wonderful, nectar. And the board is written there. It is accreditation system. Okay? Then I saw many people who are coming there. Somebody is coming with a small bucket and then filling that water and go. Somebody is coming with a big bucket and filling that water and go. Somebody is coming with a tanker and filling that water and go. So it is up to the people how much you make use of this accreditation system. It is not the accreditation system alone. It is up to us how much we make use of it. And then I saw some sages, some rishis sitting next to that beautiful Manasarovar kind of lake. I could recognize some faces. Somebody, I thought it was Dr. Girdhar Gyani. Pawan Kapoor, sir, I recognized. And sir, I recognized you also. So you are a sage meditating there for the accreditation system, and I understand the nursing director who changed you overnight. Thank you.
I think Dr. Harish has to leave, so thank you very much, Dr. Harish, for joining us today afternoon. Now over to Dr. Mulpur.
Felicitation. Sir, can we request for the felicitation for?
Badri had a dream. I also had a dream. The dream which Badri had was a water body from which people were drinking water. He didn't realize that it is the same water body in which monkeys were taking bath. Nothing has changed. My dear friend, you said in 2004, when you went to the UK, you didn't know what is clinical audit. We keep going to hospitals for surveillance assessments, re-accreditation assessments, reassessments, pre-assessments, and whatnot. How many hospitals have an idea about audit? Hardly any. So what has accreditation done to that? I said hardly any. I didn't say none. Second, antibiotic policy. I talked to you about cooks. These cooks, well cook, they will nicely cook a very good antibiotic policy. And this antibiotic policy is there in the book. When you actually see, every goddamn patient is getting what? Piperacillin tazobactam. What is the prophylactic antibiotic for inguinal hernia? Cefoperazone sulbactam. And why? Because he is the man who is getting the hospital the most revenue. And therefore, all the managers will turn their eyes away. They will allow nonsense to happen. I am not changing my sides. Parag, debates are not won by body mass index, but by bravery.
So now Parag has a tough task to do.
I would just like to say one thing. How many of you would like to go back to 2004 when you didn't have accreditation? How many of you would like to relearn, unlearn all those lovely things that you've learned? We're beginning to write the 5th edition of standards. As a nation, for the first time, and I stayed back in India, my brother went to the US, I stayed back in India because I wanted to build my country. How many of you are willing to give up this little stake of national equity that today sits on the board of Asian Society for Quality in Healthcare, that sits on the board for International Society in Quality in Healthcare, for whom today you see people on the board where ISQA, ASQA, all of them are willing to come and hold hands with you. How many of you are willing to give up this Indian dream? How many of you are willing to constantly keep looking at US and UK data and not look at Indian data? Yes, it's not yet ready, but at least we made a beginning. How many of you believe that we should do away with this beginning just because a few disgruntled individuals in different hospitals don't do their job well? According to me, I believe in one thing. I believe in the Sanskrit shloka, Annadanam param danam vidyadanam atha param. Annena shanika trupti ya vidyaya jivachaha. You give a man food, he will be happy for one meal. But you give a man knowledge, you light in him the lamp of knowledge, he will be able to earn his livelihood his whole life. Ladies and gentlemen, accreditation is about building capacities. And मैं नतमस्तक प्रणाम करता हूं ज्ञानी जी को उस टाइम के थॉट के लिए कि वो आज हमारे बीच 15 साल में ये नेशनल एक्रेडिटेशन बिल्ड कर पाए हैं. Believe me, we Indians are essentially lethargic. छोड़ यार क्या करें, accreditation वाला आएंगे तब देखेंगे. But at least today we have the capacity to measure, we have the capacity to improve. As my colleague Badri rightly said, how many of you are going to fill the tanker and how many of you are going to be happy with one sip? That's something which we leave to you. CAHOCON essentially stands for accredited organizations learning, accredited organizations growing, and accreditation organizations improving. Capacity building in quality improvement is something where you see tons of posters today. In 2005, if you would have had this conference, you would probably have had 1 or 2 posters from Apollo Hospitals, Indraprasth, or Wockhardt Hospitals, Mulund, which were the only 2 JCI accredited hospitals. And then we had Asian Heart Institute, which came in after the advent of NABH. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been given a golden chance to vote for the word Boon. Vote for the word Boon, and let's make accreditation a rocking phenomenon in our country. And let's rise to the challenge. And let's go over those little challenges that we have by way of the accreditation process. Let's go back and let's take a promise that we will live accreditation as if it were part of our DNA. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Dr. Parag. And I'm thankful to all the 4 panelists, and they have very nicely articulated their thoughts in favor as well as against accreditation. I'm a little confused. Around a decade back, the first time my hospital was going for NABH final accreditation inspection, the principal assessor was Dr. Mulpur. And he's sitting next to me today, and he's talking about it is a Bane. But anyway, every, your thoughts, every comments matters a lot. But now I'm going to have a final poll before I close the session. How many of you really feel it is a boon? Please raise your hand. So I'm sorry, Dr. Mulpur. I think whatever you have done, it is a nice effort, but it didn't make much change. But definitely the days will come, you'll try again, and that time we'll take once again the poll, and we'll see is there any impact of your such a nice poetry, missing out the DNS, ANS stories, whether that is going to work out. So thank you very much. And I don't think we have any question answer session for this. And with this, I want to thank all the panelists once again and close the session.
Thank you, panel, for a very interesting and thought-provoking session. I would request Dr. Vijay Agarwal, President CAHO, to please come on the dais to felicitate Chairman of this session, Mr. Joy Chakrabarti, our distinguished speakers, Dr. Parag Rindani, Dr. Badri Datta, and Dr. Anil Mulpur. request everyone for a group photograph. Group photograph. Thank you, everyone.